In this video, I go through a lower limb and hip stretch, a little bit of yoga, and some shoulder modality with an easy resistance elastic band. Thank you for tuning in and watching Pro Tips for Paras. Leaning all the way forward, I pull my toes back to stretch out my ankles, my toes, the backs of my legs, all the way up into my hips and my lower back. Hold the stretch until my feet start to twitch and spasm, telling me they've had enough. Weight shifting. Leg spasms. It's a stretch response as I stretch out my hip flexors. You can see I'm externally rotating, so I'm trying to pull my knee outwards, and that stretches it. This is a Gait Belt that I use for all sorts of things. It started with fitness and neuro rehab training. I use it here and wrap it around the bottom of my foot. Properly aligning my spine and able to stretch my ankle all down the back of my leg. Get the sun on my face. Again, I'm always using my hands to adjust my toes and my ankles, my knees, making sure everything's in alignment and not all cocked sideways when I'm stretching them out, trying to prevent further injury. Other side, more spasms. just underneath the pad of my foot, like the ball. Holding onto my kneecap so it doesn't rotate inward. Breathing and trying to align my spine, sit myself on top of my hips. As much balance as possible. Again, waiting for my foot to show resistance and start to twitch and spasm to tell me that the stretch in my leg has had enough. My forearms to keep my hips and legs externally rotated. Otherwise, they want to fold inward, with my toes would be lying on the ground on the insides of my feet. Everybody with paralysis is different. I'm very lucky and have kept up with my physical fitness and stretching. I know many people won't be able to do all of these exercises, but this is what I can do as a T6 complete level paraplegic. And if you can't do all the moves, you do the best you can. Going to get into the frog pose and taking the time to stretch out my toes so that they remain flat as possible, wearing socks. The first time I've done this in a while with the blocks as aids beside me. relieving all the pressure from my lower back and tailbone. My butt's completely off the ground. Independently weight bearing on my ankles and my feet. Fortunate enough to have a friend teach me this. Unfortunately, it was a few years after my initial injury, so I hope people find this video fall over, just get back up. Too hot for the sweater. I'd push the blocks out of the way. It's a little bit more challenging up on the blocks. And recently coming out of surgery, I've been told to ease off of some things. Trying to bring my shoulder blades backwards, down. For anybody who lifts weights, down and back. Opening up my chest as much as I can without falling over. More stable when I lean forward on my knees. Not always so graceful dismount. Now I'll use the Gait Belt again and tie my knees together loosely. The tone and spasms in my legs when I lay backwards will sometimes want them to wander away from one another as I do exercises. So doing this just prevents them from doing that. Huge spasms as I lay backwards this way. Make sure I pull up my shorts. And I roll my tailbone underneath of myself. So my hips want to remain seated in a chair all the time. Pushing on my hips again. Just a very light resistance band, elastic band. Focusing on my shoulder blades, proper posture, which for me is easier when I lie in this position than when I sit in the chair. The balance point on my wheelchair is so as that if I do this in my wheelchair properly with a proper posture and technique, I will roll over backwards. Give myself some more room. Constantly adjusting my hips, making sure everything's in alignment. That's my sway back. This is why I roll all the time. Again, keeping my shoulder on the ground. Focusing. If you're feeling any pain when you do this, try and let up on the elastic band and work around it. Gently get the blood flowing. Sometimes if you haven't moved for a while, that's all it takes is a little bit of warm up and stretch. Again, it's nothing heavy, really easy resistance, elastic band. I am not fully recovered yet and capable of lifting any sort of substantial weight. Post-surgery 2 months ago. I hold briefly at the top just to stretch. Rubbing it out. Lying here for a few deep breaths before I get into the next exercise. Making sure my shoulder blades stay stuck to the ground while doing this. Pulling outwards with my elbows. Focusing on bringing my shoulder blades together while I draw my arms out and back. I like any pulling exercises and balancing. It helps counteract the pushing motion of everyday life in a wheelchair. Reaching all the way up, trying to stretch from my hips all the way through my obliques, into my lats and shoulders. Imagine shooting energy out of your fingertips if you like. Opening up my chest. Deep breath to let it sink in. I like to do these slow and controlled. Focusing on each muscle group, deltoids, shoulder blades, posture, remembering to breathe. There isn't a lot of resistance with this band, so I don't have to take a break necessarily between each exercise. Again, keeping your shoulder blade back, down, stuck to the mat. Reaching up as you pull, stretching up your side while strengthening the back of your shoulder. Slow motions. Finishing off the set. Allowing the body to reset before reaching over myself and stretching my fingertips beyond the hand that's resting on the ground, trying to engage as many muscles as will fire as a chest level down paralysis injury. It's tough. Reach a little further and try and trigger those muscles. Finding a stretch. and controlling it back as you lie down flat. Just a quick shoulder stretch, pulling your arm across your chest, creating resistance from the elbow. And we'll roll over. Stretching out the hips. Couple deep breaths again. Make sure I don't flash anybody. And extend as far as you can without pain or discomfort from your hardware. Tight hip flexors. Make sure your shoulder blades are down and back. And your chest is open to the sky. Just a quick breather. Time out for the body. And I'll do this one more time. Up to the sky. I always like to remember what I'm grateful for when my chest is open and looking up to the nice blue sky. Grateful for my body and how it moves for me. This is a balance technique and something that also stretches the lower back. It does take some practice not to tip over sideways. See my hips wander a little bit to the right as I come back down. And that's that. Another backyard stretch sesh come to an end. Brought to you by Pro Tips for Paras. If you like this video, please give her a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. We've got more to come. Stay tuned.